not a surprise. Most of us expected this, but it became official. The David Krejci, following in the skates of Patrice Bergeron, has elected to retire from the National Hockey League. Sounds like he might be playing in his home country a little bit. But I look at the Boston Bruins, Frank, and Bergeron and Krejci, your number one and your number two center, both gone in the same offseason, not via trade or anything like that. They both retired. What do you think the plan is in Boston right now? Are they going to, would they try to still get a trade between Winnipeg or Calgary perhaps, or is this status quo to start the year for the Bruins?
I mean, I think they're probably pretty stuck unless they're moving someone off of their roster because they have no cap space. I mean, their roster, as you see it right now on Cap Friendly, 22-man roster, they have $436,000 to spare. And not only that, they also don't have a lot in their pick arsenal. They don't have a first-round pick, second or third next year. Don't have a second in 2025. And they're not overflowing with prospects. So they're lacking in assets to even make a trade, let alone in cap space. So to pull something off, I'm sure they'd be interested in a Mark Scheifele, for instance, but to pull something like that off, it's going to be incredibly difficult to do unless you're trading pieces back to Winnipeg from your roster. And then on top of that, how many of those pieces, what's their contract situation? Will they want to be in Winnipeg? Is there no trade situation? Like it would be a really difficult transaction to pull off.
Yeah, no, I agree wholeheartedly. So it's one, obviously they have they got the bonus overages of, I think it's $4.5 million combined. So that's what really pushes them right there. So it's an interesting one. The Bruins, after such a remarkable season, the best regular season ever in the history of the NHL, which I think is going to be very difficult for somebody to match anytime soon. It's, they're going to be a big fall off, and who's going to play center? That's a significant question. And like, they've lost a lot of pieces, man. It's crazy.
Well, I think the Pavel Zacha extension that came, halfway through the year, part of that was by design, knowing that there's a real chance that those two guys wouldn't be back. And so that was their thought process. I think Zacha clearly exceeded expectations, but he's not your number one center, is he?
Well, he might be, right? I think Charlie
he might have to be. I mean,
yeah. Charlie Coyle, I'm guessing. And then you have, you probably have Morgan Geekie maybe in the 3 slot potentially. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I just they knew this day was coming. That's the thing. Like we talked last year, Bruins serious last dance vibes. That's what it was. I think everyone knew. I think Bergeron and Krejci were on the same page. I think that was part of Bergeron's sell job to Krejci was just come back for one more year and we'll chase this. And I still can't believe it ended the way that it did. Unbelievable of a regular season, that many players hitting career highs to fall apart in the first round, completely fall apart, have a 3-1 series lead. It still blows my mind.
Yeah, it is hard to fathom. There's no question about it. And the thing about the Bruins, though, their goaltending and defense is really good. And that they just might have to, to win a lot of lower scoring games this season. I think they're capable of it. They got an excellent head coach. Like Boston, I still see them, they're competing. I'm not sure if they're going to compete to win their division or definitely lead the Eastern Conference, but like we've talked about, they could lose 35 points and still be a 100-point team.
Yeah.
Like that's what's crazy about it. If you're a 100-point team, you're a playoff team. So, 35 points from one season to the next, I think that would put them at like 6th biggest deficit from one year to the next. So, that's a significant drop. And they might do it and still be a 100-point team.
I think as well and as ridiculous as the season was, I still think I have a real question as to whether Omar can do it again at that level. He was a 915, 917 goalie before, but when you shoot up to 938, of course your team is going to have a crazy year. So you're probably going to see some sort of goaltending regression, although Swayman is obviously really good as well. And they have foundational pieces, McAvoy, Lindholm, Pasternak, Marchand, that they're going to be in the mix.
Oh yeah.
Just that I'm real curious. It almost seems like there was a bunch of temporary stopgap moves this summer, bringing back Lucic and Van Riemsdyk and adding Shattenkirk as a seventh D. Like, making those, first off, this team is actually pretty old still.
Yeah.
And it just feels like they're kind of trying to just plug the holes. I think of like Chevy Chase at the Hoover Dam, just sticking a wad of gum in there just to kind of get through the year and see what it looks like before then a lot of these contracts come off the books. You're going to see the big cap increase, but you're going to see Forbert and, some of these other guys hit free agency where, the Bruins next summer could be looking at like 15, 18 million bucks in cap space, depending on how things play out, that they could be in a pretty decent spot.
Yeah. And then they're going to hope that, like a John Beecher or some of their young guys at some point to start to come up and can develop. So I think maybe you bring in veteran guys as just one more year of a cushion. And if your young guys aren't ready, you don't have to rush them. They can play in the American League and go from there. While the Bruins, I think, are a team that obviously we know we're going to come back to earth a little bit from 135 points.